Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the StudentLoanJustice.org live stream. My name is Alan Collins. If you're a student loan borrower anywhere in the United States, welcome. Tell everyone you know about student loan justice, about our petition, about our group, and let us solve this problem together. Okay, I'm not so sure I like that jingle, but anyways, hope everything's going well out there in the world. My name is Alan Collins. We are Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest and largest and really only citizens group fighting only and absolutely and totally for student loan borrowers. We've been around since 2006. We've been featured on 60 Minutes, and Fox News, and NPR, and PBS, and the New York Times, and Los Angeles Times, San Francisco Chronicle, many other places. I'm very happy to tell you that just over the past week, we've seen some of our research published or referred to or reported on, maybe is the better word, at Business Insider, Yahoo News, Fox News Radio, and a couple of other places. On that note, I want to make a quick announcement. If you happen to live in the Augusta, Georgia area or the Cleveland, Ohio area, and you are willing to be interviewed about your student loans, maybe your student loan nightmare, send us an email, justice@studentloanjustice.org. Tell us a little bit about your situation. And, you know, no matter where you are, we would welcome your student loan story if you're willing to be interviewed. Just send us an email, as I said, justice@studentloanjustice.org. Tell us a little bit about your plight, and make sure to mention where you are. That way we have something to go back to. We get media requests quite frequently, and who knows? They could come from anywhere, so no matter where you may be, we're interested. And quite frankly, the people need to know about what is truly going on with this problem. And there's no better person than you to tell that story, I suspect. So, a lot is going on. If you have any questions or comments, throw them out. I'm happy to respond to them in stream here. If I can see them, I'll gladly respond to them. If you're watching us on YouTube, sorry about that. We do our live thing on Facebook. That's facebook.com/groups/SLJ group. So yeah, folks, here is where we are at right now. Our petition is now at 998,000, like 500 signatures, somewhere around there. We are within about 1,500 signatures of reaching 1 million signatures. So I hope you're pleased, as I am. Now, here's the big picture, though, folks. There are 45 million federal student loan borrowers in the country. There are another 10 million private student loan borrowers and cosigners. So that's 55 million people in the country who either have or are co-signed on student loans. Even before this pandemic, around 80%, 4 out of 5 of those 55 million people were never going to be able to repay their loans even before the pandemic started. So that's like 40 million people who are losing sleep over their student loans. If they knew about our petition, they would sign our petition. But clearly they don't know. Otherwise, we would have at least 20 million, 30 million signatures on that thing. So when we do reach 1 million, probably happen, I don't know, could very well happen tomorrow. We're going to ask everybody to do everything they can do to get 10 people to sign that petition. If everybody really busts their ass and gets 10 people to sign, that will put us up to over 10 million signatures. Then we'll be really cooking with gas, as they say. There's true strength in numbers, guys, and having 1 million signatures on the petition is strong. Having 10 million is just way stronger. It's probably more than 10 times stronger. If we could get 25 or 30 million people on that petition, I think that's pretty much game over. We win, and the loans go away. They disappear by popular unconsent, if nothing else. So just think about that, guys. So important. But I hope you're pleased. So here's our strategic position right now. We have opposition. We have bad guys. There are bad guys in our midst. Maybe not on this group. Oh, I'm sure they're not on this group. No, there's no way. But in the country, there are bad guys. They would love to perpetuate, sustain, and defend this indefensible predatory lending program. They get paid a lot of money for milking, I would say robbing the American people. What they would love to see, folks, is a fake, at this moment in time, what they would love to see is a fake, nonsensical, sounds good, but actually is meaningless loan cancellation, this up to $10,000 or up to $50,000 thing that we're seeing bandied about in the media right now. They would love to see that rather than the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. Now, nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. It's a terrible thing to have to do. I get that. But the Founding Fathers felt that bankruptcy was so important. They called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the body of the Constitution. Like, not even the Bill of Rights, the body of the Constitution itself. And they called for this ahead of the power to raise an army, ahead of the power to declare war, create a judiciary, and many other very important things. So nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. It's a terrible thing to have to do. But not having bankruptcy protections on our side lies at the core of this predatory lending system. It truly does. So be very careful going forward. You know, we're seeing the media. And, you know, we're thrilled that Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced the concept of canceling student loans by executive order. That whole thing started with a petition, by the way. Back in March of 2020, last year, over a year ago now, we were the lone voice in the wilderness, for all intents and purposes, calling for loan cancellation by executive order. Very important distinction here. Loan cancellation by Congress is a fool's errand. It is a futile concept. It will never happen. It's non-starting. Congress is limited by these pay-go rules. So if you want to cancel $1 billion in student loan debt, you have to raise $1 billion in taxes and give that money to the Department of Education so that they can, or maybe even private lenders, so that they can cancel the loans. Well, folks, that's ridiculous. It's nonsense. 87% of all federal loans right now today is owned by the federal government. So in other words, the taxpayers already paid for these loans many years ago. They don't need to pay twice. And the president can cancel 100% of all federally owned loans by executive order. He doesn't need to raise one dime in taxes or take a dime from any other existing program, and it wouldn't add even one penny to the national debt. So in terms of economic stimulus, there is no easier, better, cheaper, I think, better targeted way to stimulate the economy than to get rid of these student loans by executive order. So we're thrilled that Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer finally, after we were the voice in the wilderness for many months, we're thrilled that they embraced the concept and are now calling for it. And I mean, really, that's going to turn out to be quite important because there, as I said, we have opposition, and the opposition, the one thing they absolutely do not want is loan cancellation by executive order. Nobody gets paid in Washington, D.C. when you do that. So they don't want it. They wouldn't mind a up to $10,000 loan cancellation or up to $50,000 loan cancellation or some nonsense that contains enough weasel wording in it so that the Department of Education can find a way to actually not cancel loans, which is what they are very good at. But yeah, no, canceling all these loans by executive order, which could and should happen. In fact, it must happen at this late date in the life of this catastrophically failed lending system. The swamp doesn't want that. They want a fake loan cancellation that kind of sounds good but is meaningless. But as I said, the absolute number one thing they do not want is to see bankruptcy protections returned to all student loans. So, folks, We are fighting for loan cancellation by executive order. Make no mistake, but probably a necessary and well, let's just say a necessary precondition for that is the return of bankruptcy protections to all student loans. So we are working with many senators' offices across the country, and we are doing everything that we can possibly do to get meaningful bankruptcy legislation. And this is something that Congress has to do. We don't want Congress to try and cancel loans because that's ridiculous. What Congress can do and must do is return bankruptcy protections to student loans. So we are working very hard towards that end. But I'm just saying, guys, be very wary because our opposition would absolutely love to do a bait and switch. They would love to dangle a shiny loan cancellation our way, and then ultimately that sort of becomes nothing, comes to nothing. And, oh, by the way, bankruptcy protections are still gone. So that just perpetuates this this weaponized lending system on our backs. We don't want that. By the way, if you have any questions or comments, throw them out. So yeah, guys, we are fighting for two things. Cancellation of all federally owned student loans. It's got to happen. Return of bankruptcy protections to all student loans. That absolutely has got to happen. And we will go to Washington, D.C. or Boston Harbor or wherever, and we will burn our loan papers across the country. And we will throw the ashes in Boston Harbor and many other harbors, maybe even across the country, if we can't, if we don't get at least bankruptcy protections returned. That's how important bankruptcy is, guys. I know it's not the sexiest thing in the world, and nobody wants to like shake their fist and say, "Yeah, give us our bankruptcy protections back." But I'm telling you guys, we've been doing this for 16 years now. We've seen all the tricks, all the traps, and they are trying very hard to spring this bankruptcy trick on us as we speak. So beware, be very wary. Right now, the best thing that anybody can be doing to help us right now, we just discovered that 18 states in the country owe more in student loan debt than their entire state budgets. Georgia is the worst by quite a lot, by the way. Most of these states are red states. The governors of these states are mostly Republican governors. These governors don't know, for all intents and purposes, mostly, I think. These governors simply have no clue that the people in their state owe more than their entire state budgets in student loan debt. So the best thing that you can do right now, and if you look over here or maybe down there, somewhere around this broadcast, you will see an article that we recently broke and was reported on by Yahoo News and Business Insider and Fox News Radio about all these states that owe more than their state budgets in student loan debt. We need to get this story out into the country. You need to make it your mission. These are your loans. This is your problem. This group is about action. It's about agency, your agency. We need you to help us break that story in local media, and maybe even more importantly right now, we need people across the country to be taking this news to the governors of those states. Taking it to the Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia, saying, "Governor Kemp, your state owes $82 billion in student loan debt. Your entire state budget is only $48 billion. There's enough student loan debt in your state of Georgia, to buy every farm in the state of Georgia and still have $20 billion left over. Mr. Governor, how could you let this happen to your people? You need to stand up and tell President Biden to cancel these loans." This is the conservative thing. This is what Republicans should be championing. This is a big government college enriching lending monstrosity, and this beast has got to be taken to the bath and drowned in the tub. You don't have to say exactly that, but you have to make that point. You know, this is a very powerful piece of information here, guys. It is a hammer, but it will come to nothing if you do not swing that hammer. You kind of owe it to yourself. I think you owe it to your state, like just out of state pride, to make sure that the governor is aware of this fact. And They should do the right thing, call on the president to cancel all student loans by executive order. So do that, guys. We can't make you do anything here. We're not, nobody's on our payroll here. But I'm just saying, we are the pioneers in this fight, and we have found out the hard way over 16 years that when nobody on the group does anything, nothing gets done. You cannot sit back and wait and watch and worry and hope that somebody else is going to pull your weight. I'm doing everything I can do. Our state chapter leaders are doing what they can do, but they're just people. There's only so many hours in the day. But there is true strength in numbers, guys. As I said, we've got nearly 1 million people on our petition. Heck, we've got nearly 20,000 people just in this Facebook group. That's a lot of people. And when all of them are actually fighting, we win. But when nobody's doing anything, we lose. So don't be that guy that waits, worries, and then 5 years from now is saying to yourself, wow, I should have really gotten off of my ass 5 years ago. I could have spent 20 freaking minutes getting that news story to my governor, and things might have been different. Yeah, don't be that guy. Don't look back with regret. Look forward with anticipation and help us fight. So yes, the number one thing that anybody can be doing right now is getting that story there to the media. And forcing the governors to acknowledge and confront this problem in those 18 states. So I think I pretty much said it all tonight, guys. We're at 16 minutes now. There's a lot going on. I mean, a lot. This is the busiest we've ever been in our 16-year existence. And that's a great problem to have. But, as I said, it could go either way. We could have a good outcome where the president does the right thing and cancels these loans. Oh, and by the way, don't be too freaked out about the nonsense you read in the media. Right now, the media is like, well, Biden might cancel $10,000. He might cancel up to $50,000. Dudes, forget about all that. Don't even trip on anything the media says. Most of the media is against us. I kid you not. Most of the media is part of the swamp, and they are doing everything they can do to frame this issue in a certain way, and it's just nonsense. If you look back a year ago, we would have gotten laughed off of the internet. In fact, we did get laughed off of the internet in many places when we started calling for loan cancellation by executive order. Joe Biden shut me down like eyeball to eyeball in a room full of 350 other people in Ames, Iowa, when I asked him point blank, not about loan cancellation, but about bankruptcy. And here we are a year later, and bankruptcy is fully in his agenda, although he's still not a trustworthy guy, and loan cancellation is at the very top of the news. And not loan cancellation by Congress, but loan cancellation by executive order, which is what we called for. So we have our group to thank for that. We changed the narrative, and we will continue to change the narrative. So whatever you read about in the headlines today from at dog shit places like Forbes magazine and other industry like I call it swamp media, like the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, those people, just sickening swamp creatures. Don't even worry about it, guys. We have the power here. We truly have the power. That $1.8 trillion outstanding student loan debt, that's got to come from somewhere. And I'll tell you where it comes from. It comes from you and it comes from me. And we have full power to shut this lending system down if it comes down to it. And it may. This thing might get uglier before it gets prettier for us. But the harder we work right now, the easier everything gets. So just remember those things that I said earlier. A couple of very easy things that you can be doing to move the ball forward for us, for you, for us, for the country, and for the tens or hundreds of millions of people who are going to follow in our footsteps and who don't deserve to be conquered and enslaved because of some little ridiculous debt that was concocted by some bad people in Washington, D.C. It's just ridiculous. So take heart. Don't take what you read in the media too seriously. And remember, we're the guys making the news. Be strong. Be forceful. That story about the governors, about the states and the state budgets, that's something you can take into any room, and you can swing that around like a broadsword, and nobody will dare challenge you on it because they can't. because we have a sledgehammer argument here, but we've got to swing the hammer. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled at the way things are shaping up. We need more people to help, though, truly. When everybody rows in the same direction, we will get there. So don't sit on the fence. Get off the fence. Help us fight. The Constitution is on our side. 55 million people are on our side, whether they even know it or not. They would be if they knew about us. And do everything you can to spread the word about our petition, about that report, and about the overwhelming need to get rid of this lending system and come up with something better. So with that, I will just wish you all good luck. Let's make this the best week yet. Godspeed. God bless everybody. I'll be back tomorrow. Ed will be back on Tuesday.